Good afternoon, everyone. I'm still going to stick to a Happy New Year greeting. You know, it's February 5th, 2025. This is our regular meeting for our LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Committee. I am your chair, Sylvia Arenas, and we are going to begin. This is an in-person meeting of the commission, and members of the public may also attend and participate in this meeting by virtual teleconference using the login information provided on the meeting agenda. And of course, I just want to start by saying that we strongly denounce hate speech and do not tolerate disruptive behavior in our meetings. And LAFCO prides itself on the rich diversity of our residents. We are committed to creating a culture of belonging where members of our diverse community feel included, safe, and respected. This meeting is considered a limited public forum, which means that LAFCO can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech to prevent our meetings from being disrupted. This protects the rights of other speakers and ensures that LAFCO can accomplish its businesses in a reasonable, efficient manner. All public comments must relate to that agenda item, and we cannot guarantee that the public access to teleconference technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time unless required by the Brown Act. The meeting will continue despite technical difficulties for participants using the teleconferencing option. Okay, I think we can go ahead and begin this meeting by asking our clerk to administer the roll call.
Chairperson Arenas.
I'm here.
Vice Chairperson Kane. Here. Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Kishimoto.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Present.
Commissioner Tuttle. Commissioner Turner. Here. Alternate Commissioner Campbell.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Chapman.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Young. Alternate Commissioner Nielsen.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner O'Neill. Here. We do have a quorum, Madam Chair. With 6 present. Alternate Commissioner O'Neill voting in place of Commissioner Trumbull.
Wonderful, thank you. And just for notice, our council is on Zoom and available for all of us, and she is being very respectful of our well-being, and so we are absolutely going to stay connected with her that way. And so just know that if there's any legal questions, she's there for us. Okay, the next item is LAFCO membership changes. As I noted at the beginning of this meeting, I'm your new chair. We have a vice chair, and we are going to serve you for the remaining of the year. I know that there is going to be some discussion about committees later on, but that is the notable change. Of course, you have probably recognized in our roll call that we have new members, as well as and welcome to those members. And some members have shifted. So we have now we have Mayor Mark Turner on membership, and then alternate is Council Member Zach Hilton. Welcome once again, Helen Chapman, and welcome, Council Member Pamela Campos. So thank you so much for being here. We promise to make this a very fun and exciting. I mean, it already is. I don't know how I can make it even more exciting than it's already been. Our chair last year was phenomenal, and you'll hear about that a little bit later. All right, so I'm going to close that item and move on to public comments. And And for that, I'm just going to note that if there's members of the public in the chambers who wish to address the commission on an item, they should complete a request to speak form and place it in the designated tray in front of the dais, and individual speakers will be called to speak in turn. This particular public comment is for any item that is not on the agenda, and so, as you know, there's not going to be any action that's taken, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Let's see, who do we have?
We have no public speakers at this time.
Well,
Madam
I am
Chair.
surprised. All right. Okay, so we are going to move to item 4, which is approving consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve our consent calendar?
So moved.
Perfect. And this, I think you've all recognized that this includes agenda item number 5, which is approving meeting minutes, number 9, which is the executive officer's report, and number 10, which is the Clara LAFCO staff workshop as proposed for this consent calendar. And if there's any changes, please make them now to the current motion on the floor.
Yeah, is number, I see, the number 10.1 is added already, okay.
Wonderful. So we have a motion and a second. If there's any changes to the consent calendar,
Do we want to add number 12 and,
that is up to the maker of, yeah, I don't know that there's anything that we typically designate for number 12.
just
Let's add
add
that.
12? Yeah,
I love it.
okay,
Perfect.
okay.
All right, let's do a roll call for that.
Okay. Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Keme? Commissioner Kishimoto?
Aye?
Commissioner Lee? Alternate Commissioner O'Neill? Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
And Chairperson Arenas.
I'm still here.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Okay, so we are going to move into the item that recognizes our former chair. This is the resolution of commendation for former Commissioner Russ Melton. And I have a couple of comments to make. I have very, very large shoes to fill, which is very intimidating. But I'm excited about rising to the occasion. I know that I've given a recognition in your honor already, and that was because all of the really wonderful work that you've done to guide this group, to create consensus, to coalesce, and to have a unified voice. When we take a look at some of those issues, those critical issues that plague our unincorporated and our cities that neighbor us, I have seen in you a level of respect and dignity and really trying to have a win-win for everyone. And so it's many of the aspects that I just absolutely adore, respect, of you, Russ, and former chair, I'm going to say. And one of the things that is most difficult, I think, in a new group, is when we ask for changes, right? When things have been established in a way that is comfortable and that everybody functions in a certain way. And what we did last year was ask our colleagues to be a little disruptive in terms of looking at our policies, making an ad hoc committee that I really enjoyed with Commissioner Chapman and yourself, and of course with Nalima heading that work. It is really important for us to work in a way that we have a common understanding about the vocabulary that we're using and the expectations that we ask our municipalities to to utilize really when they're submitting applications. And so there's a certain level of responsibility in developing those policies, and I just am absolutely impressed and grateful that we were able to do this work together. I don't think there was anybody better in leading us last year. I really appreciate that. This comprehensive review of our LAFCO policies is as a legacy work, and so I just want to thank you as your vice chair, as well as just the chair now, but really as a fellow elected, because it takes a certain level of skill to be able to pull all of these folks in from the different cities and from the different regions and to be able to walk in the same direction. And so for that and for so many other reasons, I'm going to provide this resolution of commendation, and I ask you if you could please come up to receive it.
Hi, everyone. Russ Melton here. I just wanted to say a couple of words. People in my city, in the city of Sunnyvale, now that I've separated from city council, they say, Russ, what do you miss the most about serving on city council? And there's a long list of things, accomplishments in my city that I'm particularly proud of. But I tell them one thing I will always remember is serving on Santa Clara LAFCO. I've served on LAFCO for the past 8 years as an alternate commissioner, as a commissioner, as chairperson for the past year and a half. And I wrote down some thoughts about why it is I think that Santa Clara LAFCO is such a remarkable agency. And I'll start by saying it starts with state law, the Cortese-Knox-Herzberg Act, in which the key essences of what LAFCOs in California are chartered to accomplish. Number one is discouraging urban sprawl. Next up is preserving open space and prime agricultural farmland. Number three is encouraging the efficient provision of government services. And number four, encouraging the orderly formation and development of local agencies based on local conditions and circumstances. And I put forth to everybody, what is there not to like about that? What an incredible starting point for all 58 LAFCOs in the state of California, and for Santa Clara LAFCO is the essence that's put forth to LAFCO by the state legislature in the Cortese-Knox-Herzberg Act. What a phenomenal starting point. And then LAFCOs are provided not only with the authority to look at applications that may come forth from our municipalities and from our special districts, but also the power of the service review. And whether it's a service review about fire services or water or sewer or whatever other service, what an incredible tool to do good things and be a common voice across the county of Santa Clara. So these are incredible things. I think that we have a great history in Santa Clara LAFCO of making sure that our alternate commissioners are involved. And so I'll put this forward to our alternate commissioners here today. Please be involved with your comments, with your participation, with work on our subcommittees that come up from time to time. It's a great way to get involved and really become woven into the fabric of Santa Clara LAFCO. I think we have a great relationship here at Santa Clara LAFCO with the County of Santa Clara. And this is a real key piece of magic. Santa Clara County is our partner in terms of providing resources, providing a place to conduct our business, providing 2 commissioners by charter onto the Santa Clara LAFCO. And I think that's a tremendous partnership that we have. And the final thing that I wanted to mention that I think makes Santa Clara LAFCO so incredible is our professional staff and our commissioners. And we know that the charter stipulates that we have a LAFCO member from the Cities Association. And so in my time on LAFCO, I've served with Rob Rennie, Rich Constantine, and now Mark Turner. I appreciate that. The City of San Jose provides a commissioner, and for my first 4 years on LAFCO, that was Sergio Jimenez. And Rosemary, it's a pleasure working with you. The County of Santa Clara provides 2 commissioners to Santa Clara LAFCO. Mike Wasserman, Ken Yeager, Susan Ellenberg, Otto Lee, and Sylvia Arenas I've had the honor of serving with. From Valley Water, 1 commissioner, and I've worked with John Varela, Gary Kremen, Linda Lizotte, and Jim Bell. Thank you, Jim, for your service on Santa Clara LAFCO. And then from the special districts, Sequoia Hall, Yoriko Kishimoto, and Helen Chapman. Thank you for your service in Santa Clara LAFCO, and it's been a pleasure to work with you and our amazing staff. Nilima, we've been together for 8 years, and I've really enjoyed working with you. Dunia, Emmanuel, Sonia, and then our amazing council, and I'm sorry she's not here today, but for Mala Subramanian at Best and Krieger. So it's been an honor to serve. It was an honor to serve as your chairperson, and we're all in great hands, Sylvia, with you stepping in as the chairperson. I know you'll do great things and continue the great accomplishments of Santa Clara LAFCO. Thank you for giving me a couple of minutes to speak. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. I asked my colleagues if they can come down, and then I'll please, our alternate commissioners, our LAFCO staff, this is So I'm going to ask if there's any comments from my colleagues. This item isn't complete unless I ask my colleagues to speak, but also for public comment. So I'm going to first go to public comment and then ask my colleagues, see if I see any lights turned on. Sonia, would you do the honors?
Okay, yes. Commissioner Bell?
Oh, no, Sonia, is there anybody in public comment that,
Sorry.
I know people are
no.
clamoring to talk about Russ.
Madam Chair, there are no speakers on this item.
No speakers, I'm surprised. Okay, so let's see, I see Vice Chair. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair. Russ, I want to thank you so much. I learned so much from you during the time that we worked together, and I love your thoroughness, your ability to, sort of like bring us together for consensus. And I just want to say thank you, because I think that as public servants, sometimes we get a lot thrown at us and not so much appreciation. And so I just personally want to say thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kishimoto.
Yes, I wanted to second the comments that have been made so far. I mean, it is so true that, I mean, your expertise and your experience as chair really shone through. And we could tell that you listened so carefully to what each person says and to try to kind of craft an agreement among us. So your skill and your passion will be missed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee.
Well, Russ, I have seen your work, and especially here at LAFCO. A lot of times, I hate to say it, right? This is kind of the extra duty of many of our elected officials. You have taken this position absolutely like a full-time position. You really dive into the issues, the minutiae of it, talking to all sides, especially some of the controversial issues. And frankly, the most controversial one that we all dealt with, this is Gilroy. I see no way anybody could have a unanimous vote. And the fact that you were able to listen to every party, every commissioner, and come up with that was, frankly, it was like a miracle to watch. I just wanted to say it. It was amazing. And I just want to say thank you for your amazing work. But don't be a stranger. Keep coming back. We have to find something for you. So we're still engaged with LAFCO. Okay, and there's so much more. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, I will say a
Oh,
few words.
I'm so
Is that okay?
sorry.
No?
Is there anybody? No,
Did you want to say a few words?
no, I'm so sorry. I didn't
No,
see
that's
the
okay.
lights. I apologize.
that's okay. I know
Mayor,
it's- yeah.
Commissioner Turner, I apologize.
No worries, no worries. Hey, Russ, you and I worked together on SVRIA and here, and always appreciated your professional and prepared approach. You do a great job running meetings and handle yourself very well. It's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
And lastly, Commissioner Chapman.
Thank you. Russ, it's been a pleasure. As I said, as a new commissioner myself, you got me involved in some of the ad hoc committee work, which I really appreciate, and especially your work on the policy. You did take a tough issue, you brought consensus, you got everybody to agree at the very end, and that's very hard to do these days, so your skill set is needed, so please stay engaged, and it was an honor to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I understand that there's somebody in public comment that wasn't, for whatever reason. I know we try to work with folks. They might have had some technical issues. Do you see anybody, Sonia? In the
No one with
chat,
their hand up.
I think Nilima just shared. For the general public comments. But it looks like there isn't anybody online.
I
Okay.
don't see
So
anybody
we'll-
with their hand up.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
they need to
So-
raise their hand if they want to speak.
Yes. Would you put that, would you say that into the microphone?
Oh, if you want to speak, please raise your hand as a participant, and then
So for those who are joining us virtually, there is a button on your computer or your phone, and it looks literally like a hand. So you just click on that one, and we will know that you would love to speak to us, and we will call you. Our apologies if we overlooked that. We are currently on the item where we're providing a resolution accommodation for our former chair. This is item 6, and so I'm going to close this item by asking Sonia to do a roll call because it sounds like there isn't anybody
Okay.
online.
No, there isn't, Madam, at this time, for this item. 6, Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Kame? Commissioner Kishimoto? Commissioner Lee?
Absolutely, aye.
Alternate Commissioner O'Neill?
Aye.
Commissioner Turner?
Aye.
And Chairperson Arenas?
Yes.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much, Commissioner Melton. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
LAFCO. Thank you.
Well, I would love to linger on item number 6, but we have an agenda before us that we need to move forward with. And next is item number 7, which is our annual financial audit report. If you thought that this wasn't going to be a lively meeting, you were wrong. We are now going to welcome our folks so that we can hear this presentation. We have consultant Paul Pham, partner at Chauvin and Associates, who will provide a brief presentation on our LAFCO audit report via Zoom. And so please welcome Paul.
All right, great, thank you. I appreciate that you inviting me out to share with you the results of the June 30th, 2024 audit. So what I want to do is just kind of start out with some of the standards we adhere to in our audit, and then I'll hit on some key financial highlights for the year and round it out with our audit results. So the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they put out auditing standards that we utilize in the audit of the LAFCO. And because LAFCO is a local government, the Government Accountability Office, they issue government auditing standards, which we also utilize in our audit. So as far as the financial numbers, if I could reference you to page 7, that's going to be table 1. And what you'll see here is a summary of the statement of net position. And you'll see that the LAFCO ended its year in a deficit net position at just over a deficit of 709,000, which is a slight decrease from last year. And you'll see the big changes are going to be with spending down some of the current assets, mainly the cash, and then also increase in the non-current liabilities. And a lot of that's going to be related to the retirement plans, the OPEB and the pension plans for the employees. And the long-term liabilities on page 9, table 4, it kind of details out a little bit more what makes up the change there for your reference as well. So other than that, the LAFCO, pretty much the rest of the numbers were pretty consistent with the year before. And so there aren't any questions. I can move on to the audit results.
Let me check in. Is there any questions so far? Commissioner Lee? No?
Sorry.
Okay,
That's
go ahead, Paul.
All right, great. So I'm happy to report that we had a clean audit. We issued a couple opinions, and for the financial statements, we issued an unmodified opinion, which is a good thing. It means that the LAFCO financial statements were fairly presented in all material respects. When it comes to the internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance, our audit did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that we considered to be significant deficiencies nor material weaknesses. And in terms of the compliance, our tests disclosed no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. We had no significant uncorrected adjustments, no difficulties during our audit, and no disagreements with management. So all in all, a great audit. Good job to your team on handling the finances for LAFCO. And we want to thank your team for helping us with the audit. It is quite a comprehensive process where we do a lot of, ask a lot of questions, request a lot of documentation. So it's quite a bit of work. So thank you to your team for their assistance during the process. And so with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Well, before I open up for questions, I'm going to ask Sonia if there's any speakers on the item.
Madam Chair, there are no speakers on this item.
Okay, got it. All right, so now this is time for questions. Vice Chair.
I don't have any questions at this time, but I would like to move staff's recommendation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Perfect. Okay, so any discussion? All right, I do have a question. I saw that that, that there is a decrease in our total assets, that represents a 20% decrease, and a higher program expense. And I think it's because we have maybe lower grants, I think, receiving less than what we expend. And so I'm wondering what, if anything, are we going to pursue in terms of opportunities for grants this fiscal year to offset that? So that could be a question for Nalima.
I will try. I understand that the reduction is due to, because we have a certain year lease, and now we have a reduced number of years the lease is, and therefore that's considered asset. Is that, I want to turn it over to Paul and see if I'm on the right track, and is that why it showed lower than last year?
Yeah, that's part of it. There's also an amortization that's done. So this is a intangible asset. It's a right of use asset, and so we do amortize that. So that amortization does reduce that balance. But more importantly, though, your current assets, which includes like cash and investments, that's gone down. So there's not much you can do about the right of use asset there in terms of increasing your assets to that extent. But the current assets, though, and the question about additional funding would be relevant.
Well, if there's less grants that allow us to operate at the same level, I'm wondering what are we doing to, because that's what I also understand contributes to that is that reduction in grants. So is there a plan for us to bring in additional grants? Or I know that everything is going to be very difficult everywhere, but it doesn't hurt to try to see if we can offset that at some point.
I think I want to clarify that, and maybe Paul can help again with this. The reduction in that is not because of lower grants, is because of the lease amount and the amortization of the lease amount. And that's why it's lower than last year, because, and I think this is a new requirement that came into effect through one of the GASBs maybe. So I'm going to look to Paul really to please explain this a little bit more. It's not really, as Paul said, it's not really a tangible asset. It's accounting, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, Lanima, that is correct, that it is an intangible asset. If I could reference you to Table 2 on page 8. So in terms of, if your concern is that your assets are going down, the board member there is correct that the funding is really, it's either the funding of the expenditures you want to focus on, because you see there in the first line, the operating grant and contributions, that did go down last year. And how that relates to the leases, that would hit the expenditures. So it won't help in terms of the revenue side of things, but it will on the expenditure side. But in terms of budgeting and planning, I'm not sure that would be the route to take if you're trying to manage your change in that position. One thing I can say, though, if we're trying to address the issue of this deficit net position, a lot of that has to do with your retirement plan. The OPEB and the PERS plays a big part in your financial position. And keep in mind, that is an accounting thing that came out when GASB 68 rolled out. When I think if you went back that far, you'll see that you weren't quite in the situation you're in, but that you're not alone there. Many local governments, when GASB 68 came out, and GASB 75 for that matter, for your OPEB plan, when those two new standards rolled out, it made the liability related to the other post-employment and the public pension required to be presented on the face of your financials. So that's the big piece. And in terms of managing your finances, really all you can do there is focus on paying or paying at least your share of the required contributions as they come due. And so working with the county kind of handles that piece of it on your behalf. So the leases, I wouldn't focus too much on the leases if your concern is in terms of the change in that position.
Yeah, it's just the operating cost, right? Because that's just my point. It's not the lease itself. It's the operating. It's the change in the operating cost, right? And so if we see a decrease in cash, or we see, we want to just. I was just wondering if there was anything that we could do to offset that. But it sounds like that. The bigger fish here is the PERS retirement piece that would make a difference, and not necessarily the operating grants and contributions that come into the assets. I'll leave that be. And so we have a motion on the floor and a second already, unless there's any additional. Oh yes, Commissioner Turner.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I also, like you, had some concerns too, slight, but it did show that it's a decline in revenue. So there's a difference of about 92,000. So I'm with you on that there is is it or is it not true that the revenues are down? And are the revenues down because it is an expenditure? That doesn't affect income, right? That would show on the expense line. And I think what the chair is talking about is there appears to be a difference of about 92,000, almost $93,000 in revenue. Are we looking at that right?
I think I can I?
Sure, go
explain?
ahead, and I
Yeah,
think
so-
Paul was nodding his head, but go right ahead, Nalima.
That's right. Okay, sorry. I think I understand what that is. So these operating grants and contributions, these are the amounts that we get from the various agencies to fund LAFCO, right? So it's
Right.
from the county, the special districts, and the cities. And that amount is calculated based on the budgeted expenses and revenues. And we come up with an operating expenses amount. Last year, we had a huge fund balance from the previous year that we could use to go and reduce costs for these agencies, and so that's why we could reduce the costs overall. But that's how it's lower, even though our expenses were about the same. We had a fund balance that we could pull from the previous year. And I'm not sure if that will be the case this year, depending on how it all works out, and we'll know as we work through the budget process.
Got it, so it's,
Yeah, if I could add to that.
yes, Paul.
Okay, so on page 13, so Lanima is correct. When you're dealing like from your day-to-day operations and then planning and budgeting, it's important to consider your long-term assets and long-term liabilities. So long-term assets being your right-of-use asset related to the lease, and your long-term liabilities being the lease liability as well as your PERS and your OPEB. So on page 13, which Nalima is alluding to, this is your fund statement right here. So she's saying that you have 437 or 438,000 in fund balance, and so that's what you see there. If you go to page 18, that breaks down your revenues and expenses on the fund. These are basically your use of your current resources. So it doesn't include all those long-term items in there. So you don't see like the amortization and all that stuff in here, or nor the GASB 68 and 75 adjustments. So the fund balance did decrease, but you still have 438,000 remaining though.
I think overall, oh, I'm so sorry, I see lights lit up. Vice Chair, is yours?
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, okay. I think overall, the general message is let's take advantage of any opportunities that we see, because we don't know what we don't know is coming. before us. And so I think anything that we can do in terms of being proactive is something that I think would benefit us short and long term. God bless fund balances, and not this fiscal year, but maybe we could make some changes in our next item, be proactive in the Finance Committee for fiscal year 2025. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to close this item and ask Sonia to do a roll call for this vote.
Okay. Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Kiame? Yes. Commissioner Kishimoto? Aye. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Alternate Commissioner
Yeah.
O'Neill?
Aye.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Chairperson Arenas?
Yes.
Great.
Wonderful. So we're going to move into and thank you so much, Paul, for the presentation. I appreciate it. I think it's really important for us to know where we're at, and so I appreciate the presentation and for the insight. Thank you. We're moving on to item number 8. This is the Finance Committee for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. And this is really what Russ, he is a diehard LAFCO chair to the bone because he was trying to market the Finance Committee in his speech. God bless him. And I hope he made believers out of all of you, or at least 3. Because that's what we need. So we need 3 commissioners to work with staff to develop and recommend the proposed LAFCO work plan and budget for consideration by the full commission. And you can take on this question that we were just discussing earlier in terms of what is it that we can do, maybe some proactive steps in order to make sure we protect LAFCO and its viability without losing any staff and more importantly, without losing any work and more importantly, our staff that does and produce the work. So I'm going to open up the item, but before I do that, I'm going to check real quickly with Sonia to see if there's anybody online.
Madam Chair, there are no speakers on this item.
All righty, we are just going to start discussing this Finance Committee. Heads down, no eye contact with me. Oh, Helen is looking straight at me.
I would be happy to serve again.
I love it. Yay! Thank you,
Fun.
Commissioner Chapman.
Come on, come and join us. It's not that bad, really.
Yes,
So
Vice Chair.
one of the questions that I had was, how much time does it take? Like in terms of,
You know, that's a great question, Nalima. What is that average?
So LAFCO is required to adopt a budget, a draft budget, and then a final budget. So usually the 2 meetings are the April meeting and the June meeting. So the meetings for the Finance Committee would be between, say, February and May. And so we generally go, sometimes we are done with a meeting, sometimes it's 2 or 3 meetings at the most. Usually meetings run an hour or a little more than an hour, a couple of hours.
okay, because prior to coming here, I mentioned it to my colleague, Pamela Campos, right? And I said to her, it's a great way to roll up your sleeves and get in. And then she said to me, well, how much time does it take? And I said, no, I will ask, right? So, you know, I see that she's not here, but, well, but I think it is a good way. Yeah, I think it is a good way of trying to, you know, learn, trying to understand what we're doing here. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for her. So I'd like to kindly suggest her sort of for the city spot.
We can make that a motion.
Oh, I thought you were going to wait till it was all together.
Well, we can begin with that motion.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Motion.
And so I'd like to make a motion to appoint Pamela Campos for the
It's,
on the Finance Committee. Yes, yes. And Helen on the Finance Committee, and then we need one more.
One
Is that going
more.
to be you, Jim?
who is that? Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't
Commissioner
know.
Bell, you did that.
Are there,
Let's see, at that end, I was in the, at, Teresa O'Neill is saying she is absolutely ready for this.
there you go.
Not her words, mine. Okay, so you
So my
want to add that
motion is
to the
to
motion?
appoint Pamela, Helen, and Teresa.
Perfect. Ooh, this is, yes, female-powered
Second.
finance committee for fiscal year 2026. Okay, awesome. So let's, we have a motion on the floor. Sonia, bring us home.
Okay, great. Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Kamei?
Aye.
Commissioner Kishimoto? Aye. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Alternate Commissioner O'Neill?
Aye.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
And Chairperson Arenas.
Yes, yes, yes.
Great.
All right. So we're going to move on to item number 9. This is Executive Officer's Report. The recommended action is to accept the report and provide direction as necessary. So this, let's go to Nalima. Oh, I'm so sorry. This was part of consent. I apologize. Did not see that. No need for us to do that. And I think it was item 10 was also part of, 10.1 was,
10.1 is consent.
but 10.2 is not part of consent. So this is where Nalima comes in and gives us that wonderful update. Nalima.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I want to give you a brief update on the situation with Cal LAFCO. Over the past several months, there's been some significant instability at Cal LAFCO, particularly around legislative advocacy, which, as you know, is one of the key services that Cal LAFCO provides to its membership. Last July, the Cal LAFCO board dismantled the legislative committee without consulting member LAFCOs, and this, of course, led to widespread concern. After some strong pushback from executive officers across the state, the board reinstated the committee, but this, in the process, there was a lot of damage to the trust between the Cal LAFCO leadership and the member LAFCOs. There was frustration, and there was concerns about transparency and responsiveness, and just the board's commitment to serving its membership. So to address these issues and to prevent situations such as this from happening in the future, a group of EOs put together a set of reform recommendations focused on improving representation for executive officers at Cal LAFCO, reforming legislative committee processes and practices, and just overall transparency at Cal LAFCO. So on January 10th, the Cal LAFCO board held a special meeting, and several members of the board indicated that they would support these recommendations as an initial step. So now the executive officers are working to draft the reforms into proposed bylaws for Cal LAFCO that Cal LAFCO has, and they're looking to propose amendments to the bylaws to incorporate these reforms. And I've been participating in these meetings between the EOs and have been providing input. And the Cal LAFCO board is set to meet this week on Friday, February 7th, to consider and potentially adopt these reforms into the bylaws. And then adding to all of this uncertainty, the Cal LAFCO's executive director recently resigned, and the Cal LAFCO board has temporarily appointed into the position. And then additionally, some LAFCOs including San Diego LAFCO and San Diego LAFCO and San Bernardino LAFCO have decided not to renew their membership with Cal LAFCO in fiscal year 2026. And other LAFCOs have also signaled that they would withdraw from Cal LAFCO, though some have noted that they may reconsider those decisions once they feel that the board is moving in the right direction. So there's just an evolving situation, and things are a little bit up in the air, but I'll keep the commission posted as we learn more. That's my update. Thank you.
Yes, wow. Any lights, any discussion? Commissioner Bell?
So what were the differences of opinion? Can you articulate that? You know, getting down to the down and dirty here. I mean, that's what we have to,
Yep.
gotta find out what's going on, right?
Absolutely.
Inside skinny.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, this is normal, though, I'm just saying that, groups do this all the time, so, in Sacramento, because, you know, we have 58 counties, every county's different, they all have different kind of viewpoints, and sometimes there's irreconcilable differences, I mean, that's the way it is, so what's going on?
Well, I have to say that this is the first time that something like this has happened at Cal LAFCO, but I think it started with the dismantling of the legislative committee. This was done without input from, no outreach. As you know, the legislative committee has been very influential over the last several years in advocating for LAFCOs, and they've really built up that strength. And I have participated on the legislative committee, as had former LAFCO Commissioner Susan Wicklund Wilson for many years. And the legislative committee tracks legislation, it sponsors legislation, and works with all the sister organizations, like the CSAC and the League and CSDA. And it's composed of LAFCO executive officers, as well as the Cal LAFCO executive director, who's hired by the board, as well as, of course, Cal LAFCO board members. But my understanding is they were looking at, I think, they were looking to reorganize how to conduct this legislative advocacy, and rather than seek feedback and input from the membership as to how best to sort of balance all the priorities that they had, they just went ahead and disbanded the legislative committee, and that just upset a lot of LAFCOs, because we were not informed, first of all, and then the proposed new way of doing things really did not include sufficient representation from professional LAFCO executive officers. And we all understand that LAFCO work is very nuanced, and we just can't have a lobbyist speaking for LAFCOs. And as you said, LAFCOs are very diverse, and there's always been a great need to balance everybody's interests across the state, north, south, central, coastal, all of this. So that was the starting point, and then there was the board meeting that occurred on January 10th, was very poorly handled. It was a meeting that included a closed session that was for a performance evaluation of the executive director. Many staff members and board members from all across the state traveled to Sacramento to attend the meeting and voice their concerns about this legislative committee disbandment, as well as we attended on Zoom. However, the agenda was very poorly managed, and they went into closed session for 4 hours, leaving everybody waiting, people who traveled all the way from Southern California. I think that just didn't sit well with most
So
people.
it was pretty
and-
highly charged.
Right. And
that happens.
so all of these things have added up. There have been a few other things that I'm not particularly involved with or know the
Yeah.
full details of, but there have been a lot of concerns with the administration. And
Well,
But-
it's kind of interesting, what you're talking about is stuff that happens occasionally in organizations in Sacramento because of, diversity in the state and, like the different opinions from different parts of the state and all that. So, but I think trying to overcome that for the good of the whole is important, and LAFCO needs to have a voice in Sacramento, because you know what happens when you don't have a voice? Somebody else will take over that issue, and you might have to spend all your time looking at stuff that you may not appreciate or like. And I think it's important to have a LAFCO presence in Sacramento with a strong legislative committee, and maybe a consensus process that's a little, see, when you have these storming kind of situations, sometimes it's best to slow down a little bit and just kind of work things out and kind of like try to get your format and your procedures worked out so it's a little more inclusive maybe, and then talk it out a little bit more. So I think that's the next step. It's called storming, forming, and norming. Remember that? Everybody was taught that at some point. I mean, leadership, when you're going to leadership, you storm, and, you argue, and people get emotional. And I think County Supervisors Association did that when I was in CSAC. I don't know if they do it anymore, but, and the League of Cities does it every once in a while. Something boils up, But I hope that they continue to have a presence, just from they need to be in the committee every meeting, in the Senate and the Assembly and in the governor's office all the time. LAFCO, they have to be there.
That's true.
They cannot not be there. Okay, so that's, you might tell them from somebody that's worked with them on some good bills for cities, counties, housing, SB1, all those things we worked on, all involve the LAFCO staff and commissioners. So
So,
that's,
Madam Chair, just a comment on that, which is, so I suspect one of the topics was part of this, what we discussed during the policy changes last year, which is the out of agency service extension issue. And I don't know what other topics there were, but maybe we can send our Russ over there too.
Get in on that discussion, right, or that fight. We'll send our best warrior. I say, Jim, pick up arms.
I mean, everybody knows me, right? So, this is the way I always functioned, like things get real hot and heated, we slow down, like sit down, work it out, get a little softer. And then at some point you have to push the button because you got deadlines. Maybe there's a bill that somebody will introduce that you hate, that's anti-LAFCO, that kind of comes out of the blue. And you might see these kind of things. Or in the budget, what happens with the budget? You can't be sitting around pointing fingers at each other when the governor's wiping out all kinds of things that you need to have. you know, you have to kind of get together. And it's going to be a rough year this year. We all know that. Budget and the federal government, state government, everybody, county guys are going to have to really work hard. I mean, it's tough. It's going to be tough times. So we all have to stick together here. I mean, I would say that would be my message to them. So let's let's figure out what we can do to make it a little bit better and try something different and see how it works. And then if that doesn't work, go on to something else, try something different in terms of how they operate. And you have to have a top person. If you're going to hire somebody, you have to have the best, you know. LAFCO is a high profile. Cal LAFCO is a high profile. So all the legislators used to be local government people, right? Almost all of them. So they know what Cal LAFCO is. So they're going to look to Cal LAFCO for what does Cal LAFCO think about these bills? See? So.
Well, it sounds like there might be a need for another committee. Well, that would be wonderful. I think it's important that when there are differences of opinion, that like you just said, Commissioner Bell, there is this process, right, of storming and forming, and it sounds like there has been some storming. Now we need to do some forming, right? We need to figure out what that is, slow down and talk about it, and see what our LAFCO body can do, or how we can participate. And if there's any recommendations, I think that's really important for our executive director to let us know how that would look. And maybe that's something that we can talk in closed session as it pertains to the following, one of the following items in closed session. Or we can include it into our work plan, because I think soon enough we will be discussing our work plan, and so this is another item that can come up in our work plan that we can place there and figure out what does that mean for our body, and who assigns it or who takes it on just some of that workload, and so there's appointments that we can make.
I said I knew this was happening.
Oh, you knew this was happening. Well, even if you are absent,
I already heard about it.
you might get appointed, so please come to our next meeting. But in the meantime, we're going to close this item, and thank you so much for the update about Cal LAFCO, and we can talk about how we can be supportive as a body. We're going to move into, because this is an oral report, I don't think we need to we don't need to approve it. We're going to move into item number 11, which is commissioner reports, and see if there's anyone on the dais who has anything to report. I don't see any lights, so I'm going to move forward with item number 13, which is written correspondence. We missed that one. That might be a good one for consent. I am going to look and see, and there's no items, so I'm going to move. I'm sorry. Oh, we do have raised hand?
Yes, we do now.
Oh, okay. For which item? For written correspondence?
We have one guest speaker, Steve. And
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Steve.
Thank you very much, LAFCO Commission. Yes, I did have a public comment in regards to item 13, if you're accepting that now.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. You know, it's a really interesting item because this is going to lead us into the next LAFCO meeting, which is not on today's calendar, but is coming up, which has to do with the South County Fire contract, CAL FIRE and County Fire's position in each one. And interestingly enough, just a few minutes ago, Jim Beal spoke about having engagement from all of the LAFCO commissions at the CAL FIRE level, or I mean at the state level for the state LAFCO commission. However, we have very little engagement in regards to the issue which is being discussed in the written correspondence, and also about CAL FIRE's involvement within the South County area. And I'm going to be sending correspondence soon to not only LAFCO, but also the Board of Supervisors about decisions that were made at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I would appreciate all of LAFCO's, not only commissioners, but alternate commissioners, taking a very hard look, not only at the letter that was sent in by CAL FIRE, but also information and also correspondence that's going to be sent by public members, including myself. This is a critical issue. This is not something that should be taken lightly, and it would be irresponsible in upcoming meetings for LAFCO to make a hard decision on moving CAL FIRE not only out of the South County area, but also promoting County Fire into that position for a number of reasons that will be outlined later. I appreciate your time and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Is that the only?
Yes.
Okay, and do we have any speaker cards?
No.
No. Okay, great. So I don't know that we need to take a, do we have to have a motion if we only accepted public comment? It sounds like we don't, so we're going to move forward into our closed session. This is item number 14, our performance evaluation, public employee performance evaluation. We are going to resume to closed session, and then after we have this discussion, we will return back into open session, reconvene, and adjourn. So this is the part where all those who are tracking and viewing this meeting from home will just need to wait for us until we return from closed session. Thank you.
You're right.
Let me check.
I did, thank you. Yeah, I like it too, and that way I just have it tagged, bookmarked for, oh, I see it, yeah, I like it too. That way I'm ready to add that for the next meeting when it comes up. Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, might as well, that's good, thank you. Hi. Is it a female?
All right. We are back into open session, and I believe we have to do a roll call, right, to establish quorum, or no? No? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. We don't have to. Correct. All righty, so we are going to hear from, I think, our last item, and that is, this is the report out of closed session. And so online is our counsel, who is going to report out.
Thank you, Chair Arenas. There is no reportable action from closed session.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And since there's nothing to report, I don't think we need to take public comment, which leads us to our last item, which is 16, and this is an adjournment. So we're going to adjourn until our next meeting, which is April 2nd at 1:15 here. And so we'll see you all then. Thank you.
I gotta go get some, Sylvia, I'll be at the Valley Medical for the Suzanne Wilson. They're gonna cut the ribbon over there for the hospital.
Oh, for the
Children's
hospital.
Hospital, 4 o'clock.